In this video, we're going to discuss multiple tickers, but first we have to focus on exactly what happened today and how yesterday prepared us for today's trading session. So basically, everybody knew what was happening this week, right? Everybody knew what was happening today, 2 o'clock. We knew the news that was going to come out today is going to be exactly what everybody already knew. The problem is, how was the markets going to price that in? So yesterday, you had a nice little green day in here. It wasn't crazy, but it was enough of a green day to give us a hint of what was going to come. This morning, pre-market, we were trading early pre-market. In the overnight, we were trading 674. Even in the morning time, this morning, right around 7 o'clock, we were still up near those 675s. And then finally, right around that 8 o'clock time frame is when we started pulling back really hard. And that got us to that 670 or 667 and 668 open. And from there on out, it kind of left us with a lot of uncertainty, right? We thought we were going to get a gift in here, 674. Oh my gosh, yeah, here we go. Let's ride this thing down because we know what news is happening at 2. But we didn't get that. Left us with a lot of uncertainty. You also had that little rise from 1 o'clock into 2 o'clock, just a nice little pop in there in your overall SPY. And then obviously the news came at 2. We slowly started to kind of fizzle out. And then finally, we just kind of drastically dropped from power hour, or actually all of power hour into close. That's what gave us this 661 close. And here in after hours, we're currently trading at that 659, 660 level. So going forward, where does that kind of put us? We keep on mentioning the 652. I know a lot of people like the 659 for support. I still like the 652. I think we do need to touch this, but if we get a bounce in here, in aftermarket today and then pre-market tomorrow, if we can confirm that 659, I'm completely fine with that too. Let's ride it up from 659, 660. Let's go. Then we'll start working on that 665. We'll worry about our 672s, and then we'll worry about 675, that 9-day EMA. If not, though, if we do not hold that 659 area, then obviously 652 is going to be the major support in here. Anything below that, it's going to be this 50-day SMA, and that's going to be sitting at 644. Look how far along this 50-day SMA traveled to get as close as it is right now to this 9-day EMA. Look at the expansion here, all the way back in November of last year, and look how tight we're getting here overall on this weekly chart. So that is good news technically, because now we're getting tight. The problem is, now, how quickly are we going to come down and touch the 652, or are we going to, how quickly are we going to go up and try to get back here to those upper 690s? A couple stocks that we have to mention, just because we got to talk about the big boys when a big down move happens, like today, especially within a short time frame. We're going to look at Amazon. We're still holding on to those 208s. That was going to be a major player for us in here. We mentioned that in the past. We're holding on to there right now. We're currently trading at 209, or I'm sorry, that's where we ended the day, 209. To the upside in here, we're watching that 9-day EMA sitting at 214. Above there, it's going to be 218 or 219, whichever one does come first, because this is a 50-day moving average. So key moving averages right here for Amazon on this weekly chart. This is going to be the key to a longer term trend, either up or down. To the downside in here, we're looking at this lower trend line. If that 208 doesn't hold, and that's going to be right around that 200 psych level. So look for a bounce in here. Now we have to talk about NVIDIA, because Micron had earnings after hours today. They are currently down, so they're trading in those 440 handles. So we're going to see what kind of sympathy plays we get in here for NVIDIA. I know we closed the day in here, as you can see, at that 180 mark. We're currently holding 180 right now, even with that Micron news. But let's see what kind of sympathy plays we can get if we get a little Micron pop tomorrow. And is NVIDIA going to come with this? Will AMD follow? That is the question. But you can see how tight we're getting here. We mentioned this in a previous video just a few days ago, of how tight all these moving averages, all these Bollinger Bands are getting on the weekly chart for NVIDIA. The question is, when are we going to pick a direction, and then how quickly are we going to go? So to the upside in here, we are looking at that 183.88. To the downside, we're looking right here at that 173 mark below there. That's 50-day SMA sitting at 168. We also were going to take a look at Meta, since we did have a pretty large pullback overall. You can see we're sitting right on this lower trend line of this overall structure. We're sitting here in these 615s. So to the downside in here, we're looking at 607. Below there, we're looking at the 596 areas. To the upside, it's going to be all about this 9-day EMA that's currently sitting at that 639 area. So we're going to see if we can come back up and hit that, and then breach and go from there. But really, 620 handle, it looks like it might be a problem for us going forward here within the next few days. If we cannot break that, then that is going to be a problem as we go into the next trading session next week. We're also going to take a look at Tesla since we are here. You can see we broke down out of this overall trend line. And for the past few weeks, we kind of started to climb back in it. You can see we breached that lower trend line twice. That's why we're leaving this thing on here. But it looks like we finally gave up this week. Pull back in here on the red 392. Could not hold that 400 psych level. That's key. So that should give you a hint in here of what is going to come in the near future for Tesla. But the 50-day SMA is sitting at 378. So that is also an area we are going to be looking at as our support. Anything outside of there, we're looking down here 365 to the upside. Obviously, 400 is going to be the big psych level. Outside of that, we're looking at this lower trend line or this 9-day EMA. They're both lining up at 408. Last but not least, we're going to take a look at our VIX just to show you the volatility that happened in here today, and you can compare it to the past few weeks. So see how much of an outlier move we had in here. I'm just crazy all the way up in the 30s. Now we are trading in here. We have a hammer candle on the weekly chart. We're sitting in with a 25 VIX right now. This is the new norm. We talked about this a few weeks ago, said, hey, anything between 23 and 28, that is going to be your new normal in here for a little while, just until the market starts to settle down and kind of reverts back to its own mean, right? So to get down to that 652 area, the VIX might need to climb higher, back up to those 28s. That's fine. If not, then look for a nice fizzle out, but that VIX is still going to stay elevated. So kind of keep all this in mind as you're looking through the lens of the correlation of the whole markets and the implied volatility that comes along with your options trading. So that is kind of overall what we're looking for in the markets. I know we kind of focused on tech stocks and tech heavy, but those are the major market movers. And you always have to look at those as compared to the SPY, and then compare that with your VIX and find the overall correlation and see how that is going to help your trading and your overall assumption. So that's what we're looking for in the market. That's kind of what happened today. Also, I guess notable mention, we have to talk about oil. So I guess we can look at USO real quick in here. More or less, when you had that big down move in the overall market, oil just skyrocketed. You can see that we just kind of gave up on marking our trend lines here on the weekly chart because more or less we're just trading inversely with the market. So market goes up, oil down, market goes down, oil up. We're trading back up here at the 121s. We were down in the 119s for quite some time, but we were also in those 122s, almost 123 earlier today. So more or less, that's our correlation in here. Unless the charts start telling us something otherwise, where you're getting a climb in the market and then a positive drift in your oil, until that starts happening, we're just looking at a 100% inverse correlation, oil up, market down. So we're trading in these 121s right now. Look for 120 to be breached. And then once we start coming down in oil, then our market will climb up. But until then, if the SPY keeps on coming down to try to revisit that 652, look for oil to keep climbing higher, 130. You also have Chevron, Exxon. They're at their highs right now. They might keep climbing higher. So watch for a 10 to 20 point jump in those. That's going to carry USO with it. So that's what we're looking at in the overall markets. Overall, we'll see what happens as we continue throughout the week. Should have some good volatility in the next few days. Let's take advantage of it to the best of our abilities. Okay, guys, if you like this video, make sure to check us out on all of our social media. We also have a Discord service if you're interested, and you can find all of our socials in the description below.